Hey there, Danny here. Welcome to my ramblings. Tonight I've been listening to some of my podcasts and stuff, finishing up, getting stuff finished up on the RV, organized, finished painting, some other stuff, so we can get everything together and make space in here. We don't get a lot of miles to the gallon, so it's best that we don't have a lot of heavy stuff on board to add to it, seeing as I tow my car behind the RV. Anyways, I just came on. I was listening to podcasts while I was doing all of my stuff, and I realized that I've never actually done a video on financial abuse. And I'm not sure why I haven't done a video on it. Financial abuse is part of preconditioning to keep people stuck. And financial abuse is not, I am going to talk about it in the concept of a toxic relationship. And there can be financial abuse where there's no other physical abuse. A lot of your really psychotic, really sadistic abusers are not physical. Majority of it is mental, spiritual, and financial. And we have a tendency to show videos and movies and things like that are based off of physical abuse. We've associated abuse with physical. We've forgotten the emotional, the mental, the spiritual, and the financial, because those ones, and mental and emotional, are kind of the same thing, but not. But I think we're missing an area here that we can discuss. I'm going to talk about it in a concept of a relationship. However, I want you to understand that I'm also going to discuss about how the powers that be, not the man upstairs, not God, not Jesus Christ, but the people who think that they're in control of everything, big business, government, all of it. And I will show you how financial abuse is rampant. I mean, you'll understand why the feminist movement happened. Because the feminist movement happened for multiple reasons. Because women were able to be considered, they were allowed to be abused. Physically, financially, most women tolerated, they had no choice. I mean, we can talk about our 50-50, divorce rate and all the rest of it and how things have gotten bad. No. You can't look at the divorce rate as anything. The truth comes down to this. Women for generations had to stay with their husband. They had no means of supporting themselves and their children. Majority of our government agencies and everything else, everything was run by men. Women couldn't get a fair shot, and that's why they fought. I know for a fact about my grandfathers. My grandfather on my mother's side is not my biological. He wasn't the one I know. I did get to meet my biological grandfather on my mother's side, but he was in Montana, and I never actually physically saw him, but I talked to him on the phone all the time. My step-grandfather on my mom's side was a piece of work. He had 4 kids with my grandma, and my grandmother had already had 4 kids before those. And my grandfather, the one who I knew as my grandfather, had a whole nother family of children. he left that whole family to come be with my grandmother. My grandmother had no choice but to tolerate his abusive manipulation, because how else was she going to feed all these kids? My grandfather on my father's side, my biological one, the only one, I don't remember him. I was little. I don't think he was around much. But my grandfather on my father's side, he pretty much got my grandmother pregnant all the time. And the reason that he wouldn't be with her was because there were too many kids. Majority of them were his. But, I mean, she had to do what she had to do to survive. And the people that got hurt in that process, really, were the children. Nobody cared about the children. And so the women's movement had to happen so women could step outside and not have to tolerate the abuse anymore. And financial abuse can be in many forms. It can be a joint account that you share with them, but they keep track of every little thing that you spend, and they question you on every single thing that you spend. You should be allowed to go and buy a candy bar or a coffee without getting the third damn degree. And if you decide to go someplace, you shouldn't have to verify that it's okay with them. They don't own every aspect of your life. And that's one way that financial abuse happens. Other ways can be they don't allow you access to anything. They have to be the one that purchases everything. If you're in that toxic of a relationship where you can never be without them, they drive you to work, they pick you up, they are with you all the time other than at work, and they have to look like the man, so they pay for everything. Kinda, that's power and control too. Other ways that they can financially abuse you is attempting to make you look crazy, like you don't have the ability to make sound, adult, mature decisions, and try to force people into thinking that they need to have the control and that you're no good. And that comes down to a smear campaign the same way. Other ways that they try to financially abuse you, an abuser will always try these different tactics. Another way would be to disable your car. If you don't have a lot of money and your car gets disabled, you're screwed. Then you're dependent on them. That's abuse. That's 100% abuse. Somebody that's messing with somebody's car to prevent them from being able to make an income and make that person dependent on them is 100% a psychopath abuser. That's a toxic human being. That's not somebody who even has a heart. They are not anywhere near their walk with the man upstairs, and that's evident. And they can do other things. You've got other ideas of what they are, let me know. But businesses do the same thing. They gave us, Industrial Revolution came around, and then they had to put, laws into place for 40 hours a week, and then time and a half, and then breaks, and all that other stuff had to be put into place. Why? Because they were financially abusing their workers. They were abusing their workers. And nowadays, they do the same thing. When they took the pensions away in businesses and they started trying to talk us into 401ks and how great they are, I knew for sure that they're screwing us and they don't even care. How is me putting money into account along with the company putting money into account that grows interest and is guaranteed to me when I retire need to go away, and us replace it with a system that I put money in, the company puts less amount in, and we gamble it in the stock market? I don't care if it's a safe stock market or it's a low grade, turnover or whatever. It's still gambling. The Bible says no gambling. So they took us off of guaranteed money and put us on possible money. And then after that, we watched everybody lose everything in 2008. And who did they bail out? Who did they bail out? Oh, that's right. That's right. They bailed out the banks. They bailed out the rich people already. How's that not financial abuse? They didn't bail out any of the citizens. They bailed out the people in their class. Financial abuse. The other way is all the price gouging. Let's inflate everything so people don't have the money to save up. When somebody prevents you from saving money, even in a relationship, if they prevent you from saving money because every time you do, they all of a sudden make something happen so you have to use that money, that's abuse. Businesses do it to us all the time. They financially abuse us all the time. Look at 2020. Everybody's locked down. They were making a ton of money, not the box stores. Why do you think Walmart jumped on pushing their online thing so fierce after that? Because they realized their box stores aren't going to survive. They had no choice. The online websites were getting most of the business. And so when everything started to open up again and people were going back to work and we got back to normal, let's just jack prices up. I work in doing delivery. I watched the restaurants and the stores because we shop and deliver. And I watched stores and I watched restaurants. There's only a handful of restaurants that didn't get on board for this. 95% of them did. They got on board with price gouging you. And when we were in 2020 during the lockdowns, I was out doing delivery. And I remember talking to some of the owners of the businesses and asking, are you really struggling? And they all said no. They were making shit tons of money. They were making more money than they made before the lockdowns. So when we got done with the lockdowns, they were back to the normal making amount of money, not the money they were making before. So they just inflated everything and gave us excuses for it so they could charge us more. They didn't care it was helping us. That's businesses doing financial abuse. It's rampant. We talk about physical abuse all the time. And the reason that it's so plastered all over everything and people take such horror to it is because it is horrific. But we overlook mental, spiritual, and financial abuse all the time. Why? I'll tell you why. Because if we actually looked at mental, spiritual, and financial abuse, a lot of our government, a lot of our companies, and a lot of your rich people would have to really look at themselves and realize they're pieces of shit. Because they are doing those three things. Why do you think they didn't want physical abuse to be out there and knowledgeable? I mean, come on. They were getting away with physically beating people. It was acceptable. Think about it. Rodney King. Think about it. 80s, 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Police were getting away. It was the good boy club. The good old boy club. They could get away with beating the shit out of whoever they wanted and they could lie their way through it. Why do you think they didn't talk about physical abuse? Once physical abuse started becoming a big thing in the world and in this country, look at how quickly the physical abuse lessened after that. But we don't talk about mental, spiritual, or financial abuse that takes place. It takes place in relationships, but it takes place in our country too. Really bad. So why don't you reach out and let's discuss it. I'd love to hear your feedback and what you think about it and what your ideas are on it. Come on, challenge my brain. Anyways, guys, I'll leave you with that. I hope you have a great day. Love ya. Bye.